everyone, welcome back to Between Bells. Smartphone manufacturers want you to think that your smartphone is faster than it really is by cheating something called benchmark stats. Juan Carlos Bagnell is a senior editor at Pocket Now. He's here to explain what that means for you and your data. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks for having me.
I was combining my hi and how are you all at once.
Hi, how are you?
I do that all the time. I totally get it.
I'm trying to be efficient here. Okay, Juan, so what are the benchmark stats that these companies are cheating on?
Well, we all want to think that whenever we buy a new phone, especially some premium handset, that we're getting a powerful, new, exciting device. I think companies, it's a vested interest in making sure their products look as exciting as possible. My favorite trick is Apple's, where they'll put up a big bar graph and the new iPhone is 700 times more powerful than the very first iPhone we ever put out. So for us, as we're reviewing smartphones and tablets, it's a thorn in our side when companies will allow the phone to misrepresent performance for these synthetic benchmarks. So this is an app you run on your phone, it puts the phone through a bunch of tests, and then you get a score, you get a grade at the end of those tests. So what these manufacturers are doing are tapping into the full performance, high running characteristics of some of these chipsets, but that's not really the performance you're going to find when you're using your phone day to day. I mean, it's very rare that we need all that horsepower. So, often our phones are scaling back into some kind of low power mode, and we feel good about those scores, but it's not really representative of what you're going to get when you pick up that phone and use it daily.
So who's cheating on these tests?
Well, this has actually been an ongoing problem, more so in the Android community. A couple years back, Samsung was caught flicking this little switch whenever it detected a benchmarking app. It would just flick on all of the power of the phone. And again, it's not really representative of the phone. Most recently now, we're looking at a company named Meizu. I've never been able to pronounce that. They're a Chinese manufacturer. But one of the things that's hitting the Android community harder is also the company OnePlus. And they've become sort of a sweetheart company in the Android ecosystem for offering really high quality phones at very low prices. And they coined all these terms like flagship killer and never settle, and you shouldn't have to spend a whole lot of money on a phone for top tier performance. So that's a little disappointing to see that company engaging in some of this benchmark rigging.
But Juan, is there any way to hold these companies accountable? Is it kind of like false advertising, or is there any way to kind of combat this?
Actually, these companies, especially here in the United States, the brand lives and dies by word of mouth. You don't often see a lot of advertising for a company like OnePlus. That's one of the ways that they're able to keep their products priced lower. They don't have the marketing budget of a Samsung, so those costs don't get built into the phone. So whenever something like this pops up, I think it serves a greater detriment to that community because their whole brand is built on that word of mouth.
Right, and let's talk more. Let's talk more about OnePlus and why this has been a big deal that this particular company has been cheating on these tests.
Again, a lot of this comes to that brand goodwill. I mean, they're very active in their communities. They're very active in their forums. They're built up on people sharing the OnePlus brand with other people. Recently, over the last year, we saw a number of companies really enter into what we would call the premium mid-range market. Phones between $300 and around $450 that can adequately compete with $600, $700, $800 phones. So this is why, for OnePlus, this is a bit more damaging to that brand reputation, is because they are making a concerted effort to promote their products as powerful, energy efficient, no compromises. But when you look at our scores and why our scores are better, that's not necessarily the performance you're apt to see when you pick up the phone and use it daily.
Gotcha.
So just to shift gears a little bit, Juan, so the FCC has blocked 9 internet service providers that wanted to provide low-cost internet to some of these lower-income areas in the U.S. Can you kind of break this down for us? What were they trying to price things at, and what is this going to mean for some of those communities?
Yeah, this is a developing story. There are a lot of moving parts to this. We're still trying to put together what our coverage is going to resemble on PocketNow.com as we discuss this story moving forward. But as it stands right now, the FCC has blocked 9 companies. There are programs in place in the United States that offer up low-cost phone service for certain communities, and especially for households with children that are underserved. We're trying to find ways, over the last couple of years, obviously internet access is something that's now sort of required for daily life. There are a lot of communities across the country that are being left behind in that regard. So we're trying to find ways to expand those programs to include broadband data, broadband access. And so as the administrations have shifted from the Obama administration to the Trump administration, and the head of the FCC is being shifted out, they had some concerns over the amount of fraud and waste that was found in the phone side of the service. So we actually haven't gotten this program off the ground significantly for data. And so what they're trying to do, I think they're trying to head off any potential waste or any potential fraud for broadband. But there are some concerns over the way that they've gone about doing this, and also that the current head of the FCC has been very anti-net neutrality, discussing those kinds of topics in the past. So again, there are a lot of pieces moving around, and there are also some concerns over things like tribal lands, Native Americans. If we offer up these kinds of programs, will the businesses that serve data to Native American populations, will they be harmed? Will those companies be harmed by having some sort of government subsidized program in place for underserved communities?
Yeah, one of my questions to you was going to be about the new FCC chairman, Ajit Pai. So does this have to do with him being the new chairman of the FCC, that this is happening now?
I really think it's too early to tell. I mean, we're only a couple weeks into this administration, and we have, in the tech community, we have some very real concerns, but I don't believe we've seen anything directly manifest as policy enacted by the FCC, which would undo some of the progress that we've seen from net neutrality under the Obama administration and under Chairman Wheeler. But again, because of prior statements, because of prior comments, we are a little concerned over where this might go.
All right,
well, thank you so much for joining us today, Juan Carlos Bagnell, senior editor at PocketNow.com. Coming up on Between Bells, we'll talk to subscription service FabFitFun about why they're teaming up with the Real Housewives. But before we get to that, check out the Ladies of London, Marissa Hermer. She came by yesterday.